So since we have more than 5 or 6 minutes, I did a few stuff I talk about briefly in the August workshop. First, I'm associate professor from computer science. I work on using large language model to generate semiconductor design. And nowadays, we're also working on the training of large language models more on the HPC side. So in August workshop, I talk about the chip design or automatic generation using the large language model to give you a high-level idea. So while I'm talking, you can take a look at that. I don't want this music. We don't need that. So basically what we did is for a non-expert user prompt given in a NLP, how do we convert this into a chip design and layout? Then there will be a bunch of intermediate results. So we actually use the natural language model agent to automate every single step, starting from a prompt. Then we build this parser that build all these hardware module. And based on this different hardware module controller, multiplexer or multiplier or adder, then we just generate the code and then we do a verification, we debug this. And after that, then we'll enter into the physical design. The physical design basically involves more than 160 tools. And here we use the open source tools, it's called OpenRoad. And we use the agent to interact with all these tools. And we give our human constraints to that, expert constraints, for example, power, area, or sizing. Then the agent will interact with the third-party software and optimize that. You can see that there's different stages we did, placement, routing, timing those stuff, and the clock tree. Then this is automatically doing that. And then if the software returns something is not satisfied user constraint, then the agent will tell it to do it again. Then through this more like a heuristic research, but we use agent to do that work for us. There's no human effort involved. And after that is done, you can see that pretty soon will show up a bunch of this training curve, which what we did is how this agent optimize the different routing, congestion, the wavelength. So eventually we will satisfy the user's constraints by do a lot of this exploration. And at the end of the design, we generate this GDS2 file. Right, later on, this file will be downloaded by the user and then sent for the chip design company for tape out. So imagine we can apply this for different applications, even it's more like a scientific material discovery, anything that as an expert, we need to use computer software for the discovery. And in the future, I think we can use our agentic AI to help with speed up, at least can help us to save some human students' effort. And then later on, we show this is all designed by the natural language model agent. It's a chip design. So I talk about that in the August workshop. So today I'm going to start with a different perspective, which is how do we scale our large language model or machine learning models training? We can see that from this figure here. Nowadays, the HPC using that for the machine learning training, basically we do the parallel processing. You have your data set collected, and then we launch our training, use different GPUs as many as possible. We have our MSS support. We even sometimes we buy our own machine, right? But very often, if for some certain workload, if the GPU is not enough, then we usually see we're out of memory, OOM, we call that. Basically, model is too big and we have limited GPU. Then the solution is kind of two solutions I can imagine. First one is we buy more GPUs. That's always very straightforward, but then it's not a standard because sometimes we're limited by cost, so we're limited by our environment or some other stuff. And then we are more interested in the second solution is, can we have some more memory efficient training methods? Memory efficient training methods, what we have investigated so far is more, we are very interested in the backpropagation-less or backpropagation-free the method. For example, using this is a graph neural network training. You can see that we take a look at that reversible design. Basically, the reversible design is we're not going to store all this intermediate the weight gradient during the training process. Instead, we only store the output layer. So it's an extreme checkpoint mechanism. And with that support, this blue wire show that we can scale our layers to more than 100, use the same amount of GPU. Well, the traditional method, no matter it's regular GCN or even GraphSage, we say that you after a couple of layers, more than sometimes it's 10 layers, sometimes it's 70, 80 layers, we'll see out of memory issues. But with this reversible design, then we can achieve a longer neural network. So that's one method we have been investing so far. And currently, the only downside we discover for this reversible design is the training speed is very slow because they have to do a lot of on-the-fly computation rather than they just retrieve from the stored previous parameters. And we also recently submitted a paper to some conference to solve this computing bottleneck. So basically, we have developed some sparsity support to skip all those non-necessary computation involved. So in this case, this is a high level of our current ideas. The key is we want to achieve both memory efficient. We also want to achieve this called computation fast speed so that we can do the training in a very efficient way and with limited GPU. One we have another one is we also have work on the graph neural network by using the dynamic partition and regrowth when we train neural network stuff. And then this paper is published nowadays in the ICCAT 2025. For this certain task, which is a chip design. Chip design task is basically graph is essentially the circuit is essentially represented by the graph. We use this partition and regrowth methods that we can enable very fast training with also a very low memory occupation. So we also develop some kernel support for that. For that, we compare with CoolSparse, we compare with some other state-of-the-art kernels, and we can show that our kernels is better than those kernels when we run the forward and the backward propagation. So that's one on the graph neural network. Another is we're investigating on, of course, natural language model, the training process. So this is a good motivation figure our students figure out. So we can see that majority of the memory is consumed on activations and also premise, especially on activations. And our investigation on this reversible design, you can see that right now. For the peak memory, this is on the QW and the Caiwen models. On the one GPU, we can see that the initial results show that our memory can be reduced by half if we apply this reversible design. However, there will still be some opportunity for us. We keep investigating why this peak memory is not as a theoretical description too much. And our students still investigate that. And so here I want to see some ideas or collaboration opportunities based on that. First one is because the large language model, we can see that a large language nowadays has billions of parameters. Even with this reversible design, that memory, the peak memory is not reduced significantly. So this is only a very small model. If we use that for hundreds of billions of parameters, then there will still be this scalability issues. Then how do we achieve those fundamental scalability issues? Either we want to look for some very small parameters, natural language models, or we can need to identify other backpropagation-free training methods. We are doing the combination of, for example, for the backpropagation-free training method, we are doing a combination of, for example, zero-shot optimization, which we only mimic this Gaussian noise. That we can use this Gaussian noise to add that with our previous weight. Then we can have some hypothesis. We can mimic this backpropagation process, the arrow. Something we're doing in combination of the reversible layers. So hopefully by combining these two, we can further scale up our training. Then the other thing we're currently very interested in is the dynamic systems. Dynamic system eventually is we want to use a very small premise, 100 times less than the regular neural networks, but we can achieve the similar performance. The one typical example that is did not show here is we call EC machine. That's a typical dynamic system. We recently wrote a proposal with the ECE Professor Chris Kim by using his chip. His chip is based on X machine design. It's a quantum inspired mechanism. Then we can solve a lot of this optimization problem by using a few bits of that. So hopefully this dynamic system can be able to help us to achieve this performance with a very small parameters. The other one we also want to look is consider our current the chip design, one application. Are there any other applications we can integrate our agentic AI framework so that hopefully in physics discovery, even in quantum in quantum computing society. Also for this memory efficient training, are there any applications that our method can help with? And the other thing, I just before the meeting, I talked with Stan that actually we generate a lot of this scientific data in chip design. Maybe the data visualization in the future is very important because eventually we will be able to, we would like to build a huge digital twin to mimic the whole chip design process. Hopefully that can also be transferred to other scientific domains as well. Okay, so that's very high level of my presentation. Okay, thank you.
Questions? I'll ask one, Caiwen. Thanks for the presentation. And I'm glad you mentioned visualization. Very nice.
Yeah, we have a lot of programs here.
You know, the thing I was interested in, or one question I've been wanting to ask, given the broader discussion, so many applications in science and engineering involve a spatial context. And I think you have that with your chip design. But at least in the first example you showed here with the large, was this a language model you were using? Yes, I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about like the trade-off in using like an LLM for something that is so spatial? How do you represent the spatial qualities of it?
Oh, it's hard right now. Right now in our cases, we only use that. You see that we generate all this RTL code, which is very long. That later on that can be translated to some transistor gates.
I see.
Right then later on we map this to a very limited area. Then that is called the placement routing. And then so that part right now we just depend on the third-party software. So the third-party software, I think they encoded some very classical algorithm there. But when the design gets bigger, so right now this is just one part of for example, this is one part of the BERT algorithm, one self-attention mechanism only. But if we have tens of thousands of them, it's going to be a problem. Even this software cannot give you a good design. So hopefully some advanced visualization or digital twin can help us to provide a real-time feedback so that we can solve it better. Currently, it all depends on numerical analysis.
Interesting.
Yeah. We're still generating a lot of data, but I hope that can later on, hopefully that can be provide a feedback for the designers.
Yes, and I just respond to this conversation.
Yes, please.
And maybe afterwards we can have offline discussion because same issues come up in mind space.
Yes, of course.
So LLM, we're using a one-dimensional model, autoregressive. It's more a time series model. But a lot of people, since LLMs were popular, they took two-dimensional, three-dimensional problems and somehow encoded in one-dimensional space. So there is a notion called space filling curve, for example. So many people did that. But there are some two-dimensional methods in generative AI, such as diffusion models. And particularly for image generation, those are used. So there are, I think, different ways people have done it, and there are different trade-offs.
Yeah, interesting.
Thanks.
I had a more than question. The big thing you sort of said, large machine models, limited GPU, memory, buy more GPU, of course, not a good solution. How do you solve it? But more generally, I could ask the question, this generative AI is just asking us to build bigger and bigger models. One solution is buy more GPUs, which is what people with GPU products are doing, investing hundreds of millions of dollars. But people with brains need to look for smarter solutions. So in general, my question to you is the architecture community, your community, what kinds of directions people are trying to pursue? This is one of them, but more generally, are people thinking of completely new designs? For example, if you look at 60 years ago, 70 years ago, when the computing was at its dawn, numerical computing, numerical simulations was a big thing, and then people figured out that they have these zero, like they have this, issues with the numbers being very small and then division by zero, and eventually we figured out how to solve them. So, are there ways of in the community services, people are saying, hey, look, you need to build a model. This may be a more approximate, but a smarter way to do it rather than burning a whole couple of $1 billion in your pocket?
Yeah, but that's a very good question. There are different directions. For example, from the DARPA perspective, and even NSF nowadays, they spend a lot of effort on emerging computing, quantum, superconducting, optical computing. I also have a chance to get involved with some of the projects that they envision that in the future, the data center, for example, data center nowadays consumes a lot of energy, should be a hybrid. So basically, we use CMOS for some tasks, but we use this superconducting or this quantum stuff to handle maybe the AI task, right? Based on that, then there will be a full stack of how do you even build these computers and how to develop an operating system, even the networking stuff. And that's one direction. The other direction is from the brain-inspired computing. People use spectral neural networks, use these dynamic machines. They want to have more even we'll call that physically informed or physically involved design that can be a slightly or maybe eventually a huge difference from the neural network design nowadays. So they can learn all this stuff better. There's two directions I can imagine. Yeah. Thank you.
Caiwen, one more question. So you kind of brought about the future direction. So energy use consideration is also being debated a lot, right? DARPA has a mapping machine learning to physics initiative, right? We propose you next week. So in your measurements, are you able to measure energy consumption by the AI programs? And are there ways to kind of think about reducing energy consumption rather than CPU time or GPU time?
Yes. So we just submitted a white paper to DARPA machine learning to physics, ML2P, and the big focus of that is how do we first simulate or calculate this energy consumption, and also how do we monitor the life cycle assessment. So it is very active going on nowadays in the machine learning system society.